Hey everyone, Mike Brick here with InsideRealEstatePhotography.com, and in this video we're taking a look at a process that I've been experimenting with lately that I'm calling the HDR Flambient Hybrid Method, and also how the results of this method compare to a regular HDR image and also a regular Flambient image. So what do I mean by HDR Flambient Hybrid Method? Basically all I mean by that is shooting bracketed images as if you were doing an HDR photo shoot, but then firing off some flash frames in addition to those for editing together later. So what would be the benefit of using this method, you may be wondering? I think there are a few reasons why this would be useful, and I'll outline those reasons in a moment. Before I get into that, I just want to mention that this method builds on both the basic method of shooting HDR images and the basic method of shooting Flambient images. I have videos on both of those processes, and I'll link to those up on the screen right now, because if you're getting lost on anything I'm saying in this video, I would highly recommend going back and watching those first. Alright, so now let's get into some reasons why this hybrid method might be beneficial. For starters, by blending together a multiple exposure HDR image as your ambient frame, as opposed to just one single ambient image that's typically used in the Flambient process, you're potentially going to get a wider range of detail in your highlight and shadow areas in your final image. Another advantage of this process is that if you're new to shooting Flambient and afraid of screwing it up, this is a great way to get into it because you'll have the safety net of the HDR bracketed images that you're shooting anyways, and you could always fall back on those in editing and just do a straight HDR edit. Even if you're not new to Flambient, this is still advantageous because you'll have the option of either doing Flambient or HDR in editing, because you'll have all the data you'll need to go either way. All options will be open to you. Another perk to this process is that if you're an HDR shooter that hand blends their images in editing, then shooting a couple flash frames on site can really speed up your post-processing time and give you better image quality. What I mean by that is that shooting a flash frame can eliminate color cast, which can save you a lot of color correcting time in editing, and also flashing the windows gives you window pull shots to use that are a lot faster to work with as opposed to masking in individual windows as you would in the HDR edit. If you're not familiar with the hand blending HDR editing process, I made a video on that topic as well, and I'll link to that up on the screen right now. So those are some of the main reasons why you might want to consider using this method. It's sort of a best of both worlds approach, and I've really been enjoying using it on some shoots I've done lately. Alright, now let me take you on site to a shoot I did recently using this method so I could demonstrate it for you. Following that, we'll take the images to editing and post-process them. And then finally, we'll take that final image and compare it to a straight HDR edit with no flash shots in it, and also a single frame Flambient edit, and see how it stacks up. Really quick, before we get into the shooting process, if you're finding this information helpful, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. The vast majority of people that watch my videos are actually not subscribed. I'm working hard to make this the most comprehensive resource on the internet for real estate photographers, all for free. I'm not using my videos to bait you to buy a course or a book or anything like that. So if you would consider showing your support in that way, I'd really appreciate it. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people. Thank you so much, and now let's take a look at the shooting process. Alright guys, so here we are on site at the shoot. I'm going to take you through this process really quick. The first thing we're going to do is shoot our HDR bracketed shots. I'm using 5 brackets, 2 stops apart. It's probably more than enough. You could definitely probably get away with 3 brackets, but I always say it can't hurt to have the extra info even if you don't use all the brackets in editing. I always shoot 5 when I do my HDR shots, so that's what I'm doing. That's what I have my camera set on right now. I'm shooting in RAW. These will all be RAW for editing later on. So, all right, I'm going to fire off these 5 brackets first and foremost. All right, so now that we fired off those 5 shots, what I can do is, if you have custom slots on your camera, this is what's great, it can make this process fast, is that I have 3 custom slots on my camera, so I can just turn the dial. Like I have an HDR custom slot, I have a Flambient custom shot, and my third one is for my video settings for shooting real estate videos. So I can just go 1, 2, 3, switch whatever kind of shoot I'm doing. I can always just quickly access that, and I don't have to fuss through the menu and all the settings to get it all set up right. So I'm just gonna switch over to my Flambient setting here, and I'm gonna get ready to shoot my flash shots. All right, so now I have my exposure set where I want it for my flash shots. So I set it to where I would normally get my ambient shot if I was doing Flambient, and then I just knocked it down 2 stops. So that's where I would get my flash shots. And now we want to just turn our flash trigger on, and we want to get it to a power that will overpower this ambient light in the room, so we just get a nice clean flash shot. All right, so we got a lot of ambient light coming in this room, so I want to try about a half power and see if that's enough to overpower the ambient light that's coming into this room. All right, so that's looking pretty good power-wise. I'm just gonna do another one on the other side of the room over here just to brighten that area up a little bit more so we can composite those shots. All right, so the only other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a flash shot at the windows so we can do a window pull very easily. When we go to edit these, we want to mask the windows in manually like we would with HDR shots. So let's do that now. All right, so we got our window pull shot now, and that's all the data we need. So now let's take this into editing and put it all together. All right guys, so here we are in Lightroom. I have all my images loaded here in a collection that we shot. So the first 5 are the 5 brackets we shot. And then it's followed by 1 flash shot, the second flash shot, and the window pull shot, and the second window pull shot for the sliding glass doors there. So that's all our media here for this. So what I'm gonna do is select all of these images, control click, right click, then I'm gonna go to edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. All right, so here we are in Photoshop. You can see all our frames loaded up here as layers in our document here. And our first 5 frames are the ambient brackets we shot. So I wanna first deal with these and get a composite going of these to create our ambient frame that we're gonna be blending with our flash shots. So we have this first frame layer here selected. So what do we need to do here? We need to brighten a lot of this area up. So I'm going to take this brighter bracket here and I'm going to drag this up to the top. And then I'm going to go to the layer mask button down here. I'm going to option click on that. It's going to add a black layer mask and hide this layer. So now what I want to do is I want my brush tool, which you can see here, or hit B to get your brush tool. I want white selected as my foreground color, which it is. And I want to have a soft brush, by the way. So soft round, hardness to, I mean, you can bring this up a little bit, but you know, a very soft brush, like under 20%. And then your flow, you want to be low, so 3% is good. I'm gonna increase my brush size here. And now all I'm gonna do with my black layer mask selected, make sure your mask is selected, I'm gonna start painting over some of this and brightening up some of these darker areas. Ceiling for sure. I'm just gonna merge this layer down, hit Command E, which will merge it into that layer. Now I'm gonna drag this bright layer up, which obviously is super overexposed for the most part, but blending it will help us brighten up some of the areas though, for sure. So again, I'm gonna hit Option, click on the Add Layer Mask button. Again, I'll have a black layer mask. And again, just going to brighten up some of this even further. All right, I like this blend. I think we're pretty good here. We got a nice balanced, highly detailed ambient frame now to work with. I'm just going to merge this layer down now. So now we got these 2 other darker layers underneath. We're not even gonna use these. Typically in an HDR edit, I would use one of these for a window to mask in our windows. But really, like, this is completely fine. Like if I was doing an HDR edit, like I'd be stoked on this because I wouldn't even have to mask these windows in, because this is fine, really. This window is really dirty, as you can see. It's got like a stain on it or something, so that's going on with that. So that's not like an exposure thing. That's just, you know, something, you know, there was like condensation inside the glass or something, or whatever. I'm just gonna delete these 2 dark layers. We don't need those. So now we have our ambient layer on top that we're gonna work with our flash layer. So let's turn this off for now, because what I wanna do is I wanna composite these 2 flash layers into 1 flash layer for blending in with our ambient layer. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna create a mask on this one. Again, option clicking on the layer mask. Again, I want B for my brush tool. I'm gonna make this very large. And I'm gonna increase our flow to like 100% really. So I just want to bring in the flash over here, So that's, I'm just gonna merge these two together again. Command E will merge that down. So now I'm gonna turn my ambient layer back on, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this into luminosity mode. Again, option click on the add layer mask to add a black layer mask and hide that. Now I want my brush tool again, so hit B, brush tool, and I want my flow to be nice and low again, so like 3, 4%, 5%, somewhere in that range, whatever. And I want white as my foreground color, and make sure your mask is selected again. And now I'm just gonna start brushing in our ambient layer that will show through now. Basically, there should be some ambient all over the place here, but you know, here it's just a trick of finding the balance. Anywhere where it looks really flashy, like this cabinet over here, looks like a, you know, very flashed look. So you want to get rid of that flashy look, and make it more natural looking by, you know, adding in this ambient. Obviously we got this up here on the ceiling, so I'm gonna really paint that in, try to get rid of that area in between the two flash shots that was a little funky. And we're gonna deal with this like color, this brownish, yellowish color cast here in a second. So right now I'm just concerned about the balance of ambient and flash. All right, yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that. It's a nice balance. All right, so now I'm just gonna merge this ambient layer down with our flash layer. So now we have one composited image here of the two. And now we're gonna deal with our window pull shots that we have here underneath. So again, we have to composite these two together. So again, I'm gonna hit Option, click on the add layer mask button, hide that. So we're just really concerned about the window areas here anyway. So we just wanna paint in this flash image around the window. So the whole point of a window pull, again, if you're unfamiliar, is just to really overexpose around the window. So you can use darken mode here and then really just easily blend in the outside view of the window. So I want a high flow here, so I'm just gonna crank it all the way to 100. And with white as my foreground color and the layer mask selected, I'm just gonna paint this area in here. So that's all we need, really. So I'm just gonna merge that down now, and then I'm gonna turn our blend layer back on, and I'm gonna bring this up above. And now, again, I'm just gonna go to darken mode. So darken. And I'm gonna hide that layer mask by option clicking on the layer mask button. Again, these views are really not even that bad. You don't even need to do this, but yeah, it makes it a little bit better, as you can see. You can just go right over it, 100% flow, and that's the beauty of darken mode and window pulls. This is what I mean, how it could speed up your workflow if you just add these frames in with your HDR shots. Like if you are an HDR shooter, instead of taking the lasso tool and masking, cutting out each window, you know, it's tedious work. Having these window pull shots really makes everything much faster. So that's it for that. So I'm just gonna Command E and merge that down. So now let's deal with this color cast here. So what I'm gonna do is, with this layer selected, I'm just gonna go to Image, Adjustments, and go to Replace Color. And now with your eyedropper, just click on this area and it'll pick up that color. You can change the fuzziness of like how much of this is picking up here. It's picking up some, you know, on the other white area, so you can really brighten your whites with this tool. Otherwise you can, you know, lasso out the ceiling and just desaturate it or whatever. But here you can just bring the saturation down. It's really whitening up our white areas here in that ceiling that was you know, off color there. You can mess with the lightness a little bit. So if I click preview here, you can see how it, you know, you have color cast going on all over the place here, but this quickly deals with that. So it's, you know, this is a nice tool to deal with something like that. So, all right, I'm gonna hit OK. All right, so that's much better now. Our whites are looking definitely much whiter and nicer looking, but there's still a little bit here, and on the sink here, like I'm gonna Command J and duplicate this layer, and then I'm gonna go to Adjustments here, and I'm gonna go to Hue and Saturation. I'm just going to like completely desaturate this one. And I'm just gonna hit Command E and merge that down with this layer. And again, I'm gonna hide this by adding a layer mask and hiding it. Option click with my flow low here, like again, like 4 or 5% or something. White as my color. I'm just going to, go over this area and just desaturate, fine tune a little bit. Some of this, see, I got rid of that orangey color on the sink right there. Just wherever, like still up here, on the ceiling, just to clean this up just a little bit more. And even right here. So if I toggle this on and off, you can see how we knock some of that down even more. All right, that's looking good. So I'm gonna Command E in that. Now I'm just gonna save this and it'll bring it back over to Lightroom and we can finish it off there. All right, so here is our image loaded now in Lightroom, coming over from Photoshop. So let's just make a few more tweaks here. Add a little of exposure, boost the shadows maybe just a little bit. The highlights maybe down a smidge. I'm gonna put some clarity into this. That looks great. Really, that's it. And then I'm just going to add sharpening. So let's see, like the sink here or something. Just gonna sharpen this up. Usually I typically land around like 70. These are the adjustments we made here in Lightroom. Just, this is just sweetening up a little bit. It's just like the final, oomph that you give it here and just really make it pop. And I think this image looks fantastic, guys. What do you think? Please leave a comment below what you think about this process. But maybe before you do that, let's take a look and compare this with an HDR blend I did without any flash shots and just a straight Flambient single frame blend that I did as well. So let me load that up and we'll take a look at those all side by side. All right, so I have our 3 finished images loaded up here in preview so we can compare these 3. First is the HDR here. That's just the ambient brackets blended together hand by hand as I showed you earlier. But I did, a few more steps here and enhanced it in Lightroom and did some window masking and stuff to really, get those window views in and, not that there's anything that interesting out the window, and this is obviously, like I said, not such a good window here. But compared to a single ambient frame Flambient here, and then here is our hybrid Flambient HDR image. So obviously these two with the flash are pretty similar, but compared to the HDR, you can really see what the flash does. It really helps you retain the natural or the right colors. Look at how rich the floor looks here compared to the HDR where it looks very washed out. And the fruit, if you look at the fruit here on this compared to the Flambient, you just get the much richer and accurate color rendition with the flash since it's projecting an even color temperature throughout the room. So that's really the advantage of the flash. It really just gives you that those accurate colors. So that's that's an advantage there with the flash. I mean, not that this HDR looks bad. It's just it's just a little more washed out looking, a little less life to it. But I shoot HDR all the time. My clients are very happy with it. When I first blended this image, I did the HDR first, and I said, "Oh, this looks great." But then once I did the flash, it was apparent how much better color-wise and everything this is. But your clients aren't comparing the two side by side, so they're just getting what you deliver to them, so they don't know the difference really. But this is a good-looking image. It just has a different feel to it. Maybe you like the look of this. This is all it's all preference. And but I think there's no arguing that the flash really does give you the more accurate and better color rendition. So Flambient, then the hybrid, like some of the shadow areas and certain areas I am noticing a little bit more detail there because we did the blend of the HDR, really bringing out all the details everywhere. So I don't know which one of these to do you guys think looks better, you know, or any of these three, to be honest with you, the HDR too. What are your thoughts on these? I really would love to know. You know, if this was a more higher dynamic range scene where the room was a lot darker and there wasn't as much light coming in, this would be more dramatic. Maybe this wasn't the best shot to do this experiment with. I don't know, but I think the hybrid method would be more pronounced as far as the detail in it, being that you're blending in HDR and bringing out the detail in the shadows and the highlights. If this was a higher dynamic range scene, meaning deeper shadows, brighter brights, I think the hybrid would win in that situation. But you know, it is very close, so it is arguable. Is it worth it to do the bracketed frames? You know, is this method better than Flambient, just using a single ambient frame? I don't know. I mean, I think, like I just said, in certain situations when it's really drastic dynamic range and stuff going on, I think it would be an advantage. I think, you know, either way is a good way. But I don't know. Again, what do you guys think? Please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this. All right, everyone, that's about it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you found this content helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe. I really appreciate your support. Thanks again, and I'll see you again on the next one.